The playoff race in the Eastern Conference isn't quite as crazy as out west, but there's still a lot up for grabs, especially when it comes to seeding heading into the postseason. So we're going to take a look at the East right now. Hey everybody, so yesterday we talked about the Western Conference playoff race and how crazy it is right now with less than 2 months to go in the season. Today we're going to switch things over and take a look at the Eastern Conference. And the Eastern Conference certainly isn't as crazy as the West. There aren't as many teams still in it. There's not this big wild card battle with all of these teams separated by just a few points. But there's still a lot on the line when it comes to seeding. The tops of the Metro and the tops of the Atlantic are very, very tight. We have no idea who's going to finish first, second, third, and etc. as we head into these final couple months of the season. So let's take a look at the Eastern Conference standings here. Talk about how I think things are probably going to shape out. Leading the way in the Eastern Conference and at the top of the Metro, we have the Carolina Hurricanes. They're at 79 points. Obviously, absolutely going to be a playoff team. Most of these teams, I think honestly, all of these teams that you see on your screen right now are going to be playoff teams. I don't think anybody catches up. Columbus, Detroit, I don't see them making it. If we look here, there's not a lot of time left in the season. Columbus right now is 8 points back of the Washington Capitals for the last wild card spot in the Eastern Conference. Detroit's even further back than that. They're 11 back. I don't see anybody catching the 8 teams that are in the playoffs right now in the East. That's just my opinion, but I've been saying that for weeks. I still feel that way. Yes, Washington's really been struggling right now. Lost 3 in a row, 4-6 in their last 10. But I don't think that's going to keep up for the entire rest of the season. Columbus also has been playing really well. They're 7-3 in their last 10, and they still haven't closed that gap a whole lot between them and Washington. So it's only been closed by, I think, 4 or 5 points since this kind of last little stretch has started. So unless Columbus keeps playing at this pace the entire rest of the season, and if Washington keeps losing the way that they have, then maybe we could see a switch with Columbus getting in and Washington falling out. But that would take a lot. I think more likely than not, these top 8 Eastern Conference teams that are in the playoffs right now are going to be the 8 teams that make the playoffs in the East. You've got Carolina at the top of the Metro. You've got Tampa Bay right now at the top of the Atlantic. But look at this Atlantic division race. And honestly, the Metro isn't much different either. But there's a little bit more space in the Metro with Carolina at 79, Pittsburgh at 74, New York at 73. At the top of the Atlantic, you have Tampa, Florida, and Toronto all within 2 points of each other. Top 3 teams in the Atlantic are all within 2 points of each other. Tampa's at 76, Florida's at 75, and Toronto's at 74. Then when you look down at the wild card teams, Boston is currently 6 points back of Toronto for that 3rd spot in the Atlantic. And Washington is 3 points behind them. They are 8 points back of the Rangers for 3rd spot in the Metro. So in all likelihood, Washington really doesn't have much of a chance to catch the Rangers. 8 points back at this point in the season is a very big gap. So I would say you're definitely looking at Washington being a wild card team. Boston, they have an outside shot maybe of catching Toronto or one of these teams, but one of these top 3 teams would have to lose quite a few games for the Bruins to catch them. I think in all likelihood, Boston will also be a wild card team. And honestly, I think that it's going to stay the wild card the way that it is. Boston will be the first wild card team. Washington will be the second wild card team. And then you're up into your top 3s. And I will say, I think in the top 3s of both of these divisions, it's still very much up for grabs. I do think that Carolina is going to win the Metro. So I do think that they stay the 1 seed up at the top of the Metro. But Pittsburgh and New York, they're going to be battling it out the rest of the way. They could very well flip-flop in that 2nd and 3rd positions. And then the top 3 in the Atlantic, I think this is honestly completely up for grabs. I mean, you've got Toronto with 54 games played, Florida with 53, Tampa with 52, Lightning are in first right now. I think that top three in the Atlantic could really jumble all around. They could finish in any order between those three teams. I think they will be the top three, but I have no idea what order they're going to finish in. I think it's completely up for grabs still at this point in the season. So Eastern Conference, not quite as much to talk about. Certainly not quite as wild as what's going on in the West right now as far as the race for the playoffs, but there's still a lot of seeding to be determined here, especially in the Atlantic with these teams all very close in points. Metro, they've got some really close teams as well. Rangers and Pittsburgh are right next to each other. There's still some stuff to be decided here, but overall, I think the East is much more figured out than the Western Conference is right now. And then when you look down at the teams that are out of it, I mean, anybody below 500 is done at this point, in my opinion. 500 or below is done. It's too late in the season to come back from that. So Detroit, the Islanders, Ottawa, New Jersey, Philly, Buffalo, Montreal, these teams, their season's pretty much over. They will not be making the playoffs. Columbus has an outside shot. Again, if they keep playing at the pace that they are right now, 7-3 in their last 10, if they can win 70% of their games going the entire rest of the season, then yeah, they do have a chance to get into the playoffs, no doubt about it. I just think it's going to be difficult to win 70% of their games the rest of the season. I mean, that is a very high pace to try and keep up if you're the Blue Jackets, and I just don't think it's all that likely to happen personally. But they still have a chance. Washington's been struggling. That's kind of kept Columbus in it. Washington playing as poorly as they've had. But again, we're down under 2 months to go in the year. And the Eastern Conference seems a lot more figured out right now than the West. And overall, I think we're just fighting pretty much for seeding at this point. And it's going to be a great playoffs in the East, I can tell you that, because no matter what the matchups end up being, they're going to be ridiculously good, no matter what they are, because every team that's making the playoffs in the East is a good team that has the potential to win. And they're going to be extremely tight in the postseason, with just how close I think a lot of these series are going to be. And I think we're going to be going into a lot of these Eastern Conference playoff series really not knowing who's going to win, because it's going to be so up for grabs and the teams are going to be fairly evenly matched. And it's going to be one of those where you look at it and you say, geez, either team can win this one. This is a toss-up. And obviously that is spectacular for playoff hockey. That's what you want in the playoffs. So all in all, that's where we're at in the Eastern Conference. Again, we looked at the West yesterday, so if you haven't watched the West video, you can go check that out as well. And that's where we're at now with less than 2 months to go in the season. We're really down the home stretch of the season, and we're getting closer and closer to playoff hockey. But with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, links to our merchandise store, memberships, and donation links are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys soon.